You're on the line with Jamal Meeks, former Indiana Hoosier, number 23, 1992. And I'm on the beat with Jim Corso.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Larry, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals on this Wednesday. Now joined by one of the most well-known names to ever come out of Indiana, Cam Cameron. Cam, Coach, how are you?
Good morning, man. Doing great. Thank you.
Got Todd Leary here with us, old friend.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Good, Todd. How about yourself? You doing all right?
I'm doing good. You know, it's so funny because when he said you were going to be on, like, I just always picture you're a basketball player to me. Like, you're a IU basketball player, and I try to flip-flop it over to football so I can speak to football, but I just can't. To me, you're a basketball player, and it's just a weird thing for me. I remember you at IU from basketball, and I know football has been a much bigger part of your life, but I remember watching those state finals and all those games.
Well, as you know, growing up in Indiana, getting to play basketball and being a part of that is special. My dad was a football coach, but you know what, Todd, you're like a lot of Indiana guys. You guys were really, really, really good basketball players, but some of you, guys about your size, you've probably been a nice quarterback too. So that's what happens when you come from Indiana.
Yeah, I was too scared. to play football.
You said the other day, I was asking you what other some of the sports you played, and you mentioned football, but you didn't say what position you played.
Oh, I was a wide receiver. I got beat out at quarterback, which I don't feel too bad at. I played quarterback in youth football growing up, but then in my freshman year, we had a kid that actually ended up getting a scholarship to play at Western Michigan, and we were the same age growing up. So he beat me out at quarterback, so I had to go out to wide receiver. And about the second pass I caught over the middle, and somebody hit me straight in the mouth is about the time I determined baseball and basketball were going to be my sports.
Well, there have been a lot of guys like that over the years, but you were tough on the basketball court, so that's all that matters.
Coach, what are you doing to fill your time right now? I know it's such a weird time for all of us, having to find different ways to go about life.
Yeah, you know, it's we're out here in San Diego, California, and I've got 4 kids all on college campuses, and my daughter's home from USC, my son's home from West Point, and another one's home from San Diego State. So there's a lot going on here, to be honest with you. It's kind of cool. We're being smart. We're staying inside for the most part. Go out and walk the dogs in the evenings and the early morning, and spend a lot of family time together, and listen to radio shows like this.
Well, yeah, we're certainly trying, but without great people like you, it sure would be a lot more boring to let us talk. That's for sure.
You lost us at San Diego because right now it's 34 degrees outside here in Bloomington, and so as soon as you said San Diego, I blanked out.
Well, my wife Missy's from Bloomington. I'm from Terre Haute, and I was back not too long ago. I was back to the combine actually, and we got a chance to come by Bloomington as well. So yeah, we're still tied to Indiana. We love Indiana, but we knew once I coached for the Chargers, a buddy of mine told me, he said, "Don't coach for the Chargers." I said, "Well, why is that?" He goes, "A trap." I said, "What do you mean it's a trap?" So yeah, your family's always going to want to stay there. And boy, were they right. We built a home here in 2000, and we've been coming back off and on ever since.
Yeah, even Todd's favorite TV basketball analyst, Bill Walton, moved down to San Diego. That's where his home is, I believe, as well.
That would be enough to get me to move out of town.
Yeah, he's a beauty now. I tell you what, he's no Don Fisher. And, you know what, Todd? You bring up some great memories. And you talking about you watching me play. Well, I got a chance to watch the 76 teams and those guys play. But the highlight for me as a kid growing up in Indiana was listening to the Don Fisher. I know he's a good friend of yours, and listen to the Don Fisher broadcasts. And we used to run around imitating Don Fisher as a kid, and it was no one like Don Fisher. I know you guys agree.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I mean, he's. I try to imitate him. I'm so bad at imitating.
Everybody is. Nobody can imitate him. I mean, it is like.
I got a couple buddies that are really, really.
Okay,
good.
You ready? You ready for it?
Let's have it. Yeah.
All right, here it comes. Ready?
You have to say the word
Benson
Iowa.
now, jumping up and down, throwing his hands in the air. As this Hoosier Ball Club goes wild, they realize they won the national championship.
Beautiful.
Yep, you're better than most.
That's one of the best
sure.
I've ever heard. That's beautiful. I can't believe we had to get Cam Cameron on here to do the best Don Fisher impersonation. That's amazing, but that was pretty good.
I haven't done that in years, but that brought back some good memories.
Hey, talk about when I was in high school, the football and basketball, they tried to keep them separate because of the sports, and in college it's even more difficult. But you're one of the few guys that was able to pull that off, the double playing football for Indiana and then basketball for Bob Knight.
Well, I say this pretty seriously. I really practiced more than I played, but it's just a unique opportunity for me. Coming from having a really cool high school career and being on some great teams at Terre Haute South. I think we won. We won I don't know how many games we won. We won a bunch of games, and I was always hooked on basketball. But my dad was a coach, and I was a quarterback, so I came to IU to play football, and I just never lost the passion to play basketball. And I said to Coach Knight when Rick Rory had gotten injured, I think it was 1983, I told him, no one even needs a coach. No one even needs to know I'm on the team. I'll just practice and whatever I can do to help. And next thing you know, that Thursday night, I was in Rupp Arena playing against Kentucky. So you try to figure stuff out. And sometimes there's just a bigger plan there for you. So I was just very, very fortunate to be able to do both. And obviously knowing I wanted to be a coach, that was a nice fit for me.
Who coached the football team? Who recruited you at IU?
Actually, Lee Corso was the head
That's
coach.
What I thought.
And
I thought I remembered that.
A guy named Bill Doe. I played 1 year for Sam White my senior year, which was really a phenomenal year for me as a player. And then I tore my ACL. But no, Coach Corso. People think he's just a funny guy. That guy knew some football, and we won the Holiday Bowl my freshman year, and IU's first bowl win. So being a part of a bowl winning team and a Big Ten championship team in basketball was really two of my highlights. Personally, but then, as you know, the relationships with these coaches and players are the things that you carry with you. So I'll always remember him and Coach Cruz and all the guys in basketball and Coach Knight, obviously. So
you are literally
great memories.
You are literally the only person in the world that can say that they have played for Lee Corso and Bob Knight
and Sam White.
But Lee Corso, just the stories you could tell. We could have you on here for 5 hours just telling Lee Corso and Bob Knight stories, because those are two just animated, crazy nuts that just so many different things. I thought I remembered it was Lee Corso. I was hoping it was, but
no, you're right.
That's awesome.
And they were completely different. But I'll say this: I went in. I was a little nervous when I went into Coach Corso to say that I've got an opportunity to play basketball and I'd really like to do that. And he said, I think that is a great idea. He goes, you want to be a coach someday? I'll never forget him saying, he goes, what better coach to learn from? And he was right. I learned a lot. Really, and I don't know how it was with you, Todd. I'm not sure who all the assistants were when you were there, but I learned so much from Joby Wright and Jim Cruz and Royce Waltman and Con Smith. The assistants were a huge key, at least during my time there. And Coach Knight obviously is who he is, but he did a phenomenal job with the assistants, at least the ones I played for. So that was a huge part. We got to know those guys probably a lot better than we got to know him.
Totally. Yeah, I totally agree. Dockich, and the funny part, you said Joby Wright, because Joby was there still when I played. He was there for, I think, 1 year, maybe two, but Joby and Dockich and Felling were really the key assistant coaches for me back then. And you're right. We spent so much more time with those guys than we did Coach Knight. It wasn't even funny. But yeah, that's the Dockich of those days is different than the Dockich of today. And I love him. I love both Dockiches, but he was a big part of so many players from my era's development, because he worked with the big guys, the guards. He worked with everybody, and it was just he was a huge factor. I know you mentioned those coaching relationships, and that was a big deal for us back then.
Yeah, one thing I'd say about Dan, and I, you come back to Indiana and you live across the country, and people say, yeah, Dockich is too controversial. I don't listen to his radio show, but he was. I'll say this about him: he was a great teammate, and our lockers were next to each other, and he had tremendous respect within our locker room. When he didn't play scared. I think that's probably why he was the one chosen to guard Michael Jordan. Now, he had a lot of help, as we know. That help side defense was pretty good in that game, but Doc was phenomenal teammate, phenomenal guy to be around. And then as a coach, we communicated quite a bit as a coach. But what I have seen over the years, and I'm not being critical of you guys, but I say some guys, when they jump into that media, it's like, where did that other guy go? And maybe that's what you're alluding to. So, people want controversy and things like that. But my experience with Dan was phenomenal.
Yeah, he's always been a great friend of us. He's always
He's always been good to us. And Danny, we just have a kind of a special relationship, I think, just because he was that important to me as a player when I was there. And I know Calbert and some of the other guys. I mean, Dan's the guy that we dealt with, and I don't think a lot of Indiana fans, I mean, they don't want to hear anything negative about the program, and that's fine. I'm okay with that too. But Danny's just fine with saying how things are, and he's never going to sugarcoat it, and he's going to say his opinion. Doesn't mean his opinion's always right, but he's going to say it. And you're right. I'm not turning into the Dan Dockich Love Show, but I love Danny.
Right.
He's a good dude to me.
No, I can see that. I think what you're alluding to in my mind is those assistant coaches were the most phenomenal translators that I've ever been around, because Coach Knight would get after you pretty good. Sometimes it was a little complex, because of the way he viewed the game of basketball. And so the assistants had to translate to us, because Coach said, because it'd be hard to take some of the stuff he'd say to you, but all of a sudden Joby'd come over and say, now here's what he's saying. Don't get into all the other, just see this part of it. And I thought that was huge. Especially with Ted and Randy, Steve. I mean, all the guys all those names you guys know I'm talking about. They did a phenomenal job of just translating what Coach Knight really wanted to get done, and that was big.
It sounds like you've been able to absorb so much from so many different coaches and move, and especially even on the basketball side. It's like it doesn't even matter what sport it is, and then take that to what you did, because you've had an unbelievable coaching career, coaching at only the top destinations in the country, whether it's Michigan or the Redskins or Baltimore, wherever, or the Dolphins or San Diego. It's just amazing how you've just compiled all of this coaching knowledge.
Well, Jim, that's nice of you, but I've just been the way I view things is really pretty simple. I think if good people work together, good things are going to happen. So I've just always tried to surround myself with good people, and then try to work as hard as I can with those people, and then you got to get good players. I mean, you have to do a phenomenal job of evaluating players, especially mentally. Coach always said mental is the physical as 4 is to 1, and that is so true. And that's true. You look at the IQ of basketball players today. There are no dummies playing great basketball anymore. The high IQ guys, the NBA IQs have gone way up. Just look at Steph Curry. I mean, Larry had it way back. I grew up playing with Larry when he was at Indiana State, and I think in my mind, he and Magic were two of the first just really high IQ guys, other than probably those 76, 75 for Coach Knight's early teams. But that basketball IQ is so important, and we as coaches, everywhere else I've been, we've always valued the brain, and the mental side of the game, and that tends under pressure to help you and help you win big games.
Todd, you say that. I don't know how many times I've heard you say that on here. The mental.
If you knew how many times I had to write down the mental is to physical as 4 is to 1, you would know why I repeat it all the time. But I've said it. I'll tell you, 3 people in the world that throw up every time they hear that are my 3 kids, because I have said that to them so many times about stupid things that they've said and done, and it's I've got it written on the wall just like we had in our locker room there, Cam.
Yeah. No doubt. Well, as you know, you just hope it sinks in a little bit, and they'll grab hold of it. So don't give in. It's important. My guys, like I say, they're back home now, and they're hearing some of the same stuff they heard when they left to go off to college. So, and they kind of smile at it now. So it'll come back to be a huge positive for you.
Will any of your kids get into coaching?
I've got one. My second son, Danny. who played 3 years at IU, then transferred to New Mexico to finish up his career. And he's coaching now. He's an intern at Michigan. So he's the
awesome.
one that I tried to talk out of it. And the more I tried to talk him out of it, he decided that he wanted to get into it. So he's up there working with Jim Harbaugh and that staff, and really, really enjoy. He's kind of got the coaching bug. My other kids are sports minded, but they kind of got their own thing. I don't think he'll probably be my only coach. Speaking of Jim Harbaugh, I text in the show from Tim. How was it to coach Jim Harbaugh? Yeah, it was phenomenal. He when I got there, he was kind of under the radar. Of course, going back 100 years, it was. I remember getting in my Camaro, beat up Camaro, and drove to Michigan as a graduate assistant. And went in there as a graduate assistant. And Jim was a redshirt sophomore, and I'd never heard of him, and neither did anybody else. And all of a sudden, he kind of came on the scene. One of the hardest workers I've ever been around. I know that doesn't surprise anybody. He just willed himself to become an All-American, a first-round draft pick. Heck, his first-round draft pick quarterback for the Bears, and his rookie year, he ran down on the kickoff team. So he just loves the game of football and was a phenomenal. Taught me a lot. I think I know, Todd, you do some coaching now. Your players, doesn't matter how old they are, it could be youth coaches, high school, college, NFL. Your coaches, if you'll pay attention, your players as a coach can teach you a lot. And Jim taught me a lot about how to teach and what worked, what didn't work. And then he went on to have a great career. And, we still stay in contact pretty regularly to this day.
So he was Taysom Hill before Taysom Hill.
You know what? He'd love for you to say that. I'm going to be honest with you. He'd love you. I'd say the mindset and probably the throwing part. And he was a little bit of a scrambler. But Taysom Hill now, that cat is spectacular. He's a big version of Antoine Randall. Is kind of how I would view him.
That's a good point.
They do some freakish. He can do some freakish stuff.
That's funny. You keep leading me right into my next question. That's 2 in a row because I just wrote down Antoine Randall, one of the, if not the greatest athlete or one of the greatest athletes in the history of Indiana University. You obviously had a great fortune of coaching him as well. That had to be a special time.
Well, it was. And the first part is Coach Knight helped me recruit him, and I'm not sure we get him if Coach Knight, and obviously his brother Curtis was playing for us, but I'm not sure we get him if Coach Knight doesn't step in and help. But no, and are you guys aware of what he's doing now? That sucker, I tried to talk him out of coaching too, but he's a wide receiver coach now for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So he and his family are doing great. And he probably I'd say top 5, just because you got to put Drew Brees, even though he's a Purdue guy, you got to put some other guys in there, Phillip Rivers, those kind. But I'd say Antoine may be the smartest football player that I ever coached, or one of them. And he could come off the field and tell you what all 11 defenders were doing. And that's really unique. That's really unique.
You also just mentioned Phillip Rivers, now coming to the Colts with a long time there in San Diego. But now he'll be playing with the Colts, of course. So big moves for them.
Yeah. Hey, you guys will love this one now. So we drafted Phillip out of North Carolina State when Eli didn't want to come to the Chargers. But we fell in love with Phillip at the Senior Bowl. But somebody called me. Who was it? Somebody from back home said Phillip was coming to Indianapolis, which I kind of knew. I knew that was going to happen. And I said, well, here's what you're getting with Phillip Rivers. And you're getting a combination of Larry Bird and Peyton Manning. And that may sound funny to you guys, but it's true. He's got that competitiveness that Larry had. He's got, Larry had a little bit of a funky shot. Everybody was, will that translate to the NBA? Well, we all know how that ended up. Phillip's got a little funky release. He's as clean cut as they come. He's as hard a worker as you're ever going to find. To think that the Colts could have Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, and Phillip Rivers, most Miami Dolphins just would take a third of any of that. And the Colts are so fortunate. But you guys got a great one now. You guys, hopefully everybody knows that up there. He's phenomenal.
I think they do, but of course, you're never going to please everybody. But looking forward to what that season brings, and hopefully, when the season comes around, for all these seasons that we're waiting on, whether it's football, soccer, or whatever. But Coach, I cannot thank you for taking the time to join. It's been one of the best times I think we've ever had on the show, and I can't thank you. I hope we get a chance to do this again. This has been one of the funnest times I've had.
Well, it's awfully nice of you. I know there's a lot of people struggling out there, and a show like this and I did my homework. People enjoy your show. They love the life of your show, and keep it going, man. And feel free to call me anytime.
We appreciate it. Thanks, Coach.
Coach, we appreciate
it.
I hope you guys have a great time out in San Diego and stay safe.
You got it. Same to you and everybody listening.
This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.